Hello, dear students. Welcome to English class. Today we will continue the chapter number 5 from your book Moments, The Happy Prince. In the continuity of this chapter, we'll read how the prince made the swallow agree to stay with him for one more night. This section. Dear prince, said the swallow, I cannot do that, and he began to weep. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, do as I command you. So the swallow plucked out the prince's eye and flew away to the young man's garret. It was easy enough to get in, as there was a hole in the roof. Through this he darted and came into the room. The young man had his head buried in his hands, so he did not hear the flutter of the bird's wings, and when he looked up he found the beautiful sapphire lying on the withered violets. So, when the happy prince was requesting to the swallow to pluck out one of his eye, then the swallow did not get agree. He started weeping because he told the prince that he could not do that. But the prince commanded him and asked him to do whatever he said. So the swallow plucked out the prince's eye and flew away to the young man's garret. It was easy to get into the room because there was a hole in the roof of the room, and through that hole he came into the room. He found the young man had buried his head in his hands, and he did not hear the flutter of the bird's wings. When he looked up, he found a beautiful shining sapphire lying on the withered violets on his table. I am beginning to be appreciated, he cried. This is from some great admirer. Now I can finish my play, and he looked quite happy. The next day, the swallow going to Egypt, cried the swallow, but nobody minded, and when the moon rose he flew back to the happy prince. I have come to bid you good-bye, he cried. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, will you not stay with me one night longer? So when the young man found that fire on his table, he cried that he had been started to be appreciated by the people for his art of writing. This is from some great admirer. So he thought that now he would be able to finish his play, and he became happy. The next day, when the swallow flew down to the harbor, where he sat on a mast of a large vessel and watched the sailors working, and he cried that I'm going to Egypt now. But the sailors and not any other minded about anything from swallow. When the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince and told the happy prince that he was there to bid him goodbye. But on the other side, the prince again requested him to stay with him for one more night. It's winter, answered the swallow, and the snow will soon be here. In Egypt, the sun is warm on the green palm trees, and the crocodiles lie in the mud and look lazily about them. In the square below, said the happy prince, there stands a little match girl. She has let her matches fall in the gutter, and they are all spoiled. Her father will beat her if she does not bring home some money, and she is crying. She has no shoes or no stockings, and her little head is bare. Pluck out my other eye. Told the swallow that in the square there was a little square. In the square below there was a match girl standing, little match girl standing, and she had lost all of her matches because they have fallen in the gutter, and they all have been spoiled. She thought, she was thinking that now her father would beat her if she did not bring the home some money. therefore she was crying. She had no shoes, no stockings, and nothing to cover her head in that winter season. So the happy prince requested the swallow to pluck out the another other eye and give it to that match girl so that her father would not beat her. "I'll stay with you one night longer," said the swallow, "but I cannot pluck out your eye. You would be quite blind then." "Swallow, swallow, little swallow," said the prince, "do as I command you." So he plucked out the prince's other eye and darted down with it. He swooped past the match girl and slipped the jewel into the palm of her hand. "What a lovely bit of glass!" cried the little girl, and she ran home laughing. Then the swallow came back to the prince. "You are blind now," he said, "so I will stay with you always." The swallow got agree to stay with the prince for one more night, but he told him that he would not pluck out his eye, because after this he would be quite blind. But prince, he was thinking something else, therefore he swallow plucked out the prince's other eye, darted down with it, and swooped past the. When he flew past the match girl, and very cleverly or very clearly, without being seen or without being heard, he slipped the jewel into the palm of the hand of the little match girl. Silently, stealthily, he did so. What a lovely bit of glass! When the girl saw that shining gem, she did not recognize that it was a precious gem, but she became happy when she found that shining glass on her palm. Then she ran home laughing. Then the swallow came back to the prince. "You are blind now." And he decided to stay with the prince always. After this, "No, little swallow," said the poor prince, "you must go away to Egypt." "No, I will stay with you always," said the swallow, and he slept at the prince's feet. So, dear children, we have seen there that swallow was also equally kind hearted as the prince was. When the swallow found that the prince had lost both of his eyes and he had become quite blind now, he changed his decision to go to Egypt and decided to stay with the prince for always. But the prince asked him to go away to Egypt. The swallow refused the request of the prince now, and he slept at the prince's feet. All the next day he sat on the prince's shoulder. He looked throughout the city and told the prince the story of marvelous things. But more marvelous than anything is the suffering of men and women. There is no mystery so great as misery. Fly over my city, little swallow, and tell me what you see there. So when the swallow was sitting on the shoulder of the happy prince, he told him all the good stories, all the happy stories of the strange land. But the prince told him that marvelous things are not to be explained. The most marvelous thing is the suffering of men and women, and the misery is greater than the mystery. So he asked the swallow to fly over the city and tell him what he saw actually there. So the swallow flew over the great city and saw the rich making merry in their beautiful houses, while the beggars were sitting at the gates. He flew into dark lanes and saw the white faces of starving children looking out listlessly at the black streets. Under the archway of a bridge, two little boys were lying in each other's arms to try and keep themselves warm. "How hungry we are," they said. "You must not lie here," shouted the watchman, and they wandered out into the rain. Then he flew back and told the prince what he had seen there, all the misery, all the grief prevailing in the city. I'm covered with the fine gold, said the prince. You must take it off leaf by leaf and give it to the poor. The living always think that gold can make them happy. So, after listening the misery of the poor people, the happy prince asked the swallow to take out all the gold plates leaf by leaf to those poor people so that they could have some money, they could have some comfort livelihoods. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold the swallow picked off, till the happy prince looked quite dull and grey. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold he brought to the poor, and the children's faces grew rosier, and they laughed and played in the street. We have bread now, they cried. So one after the another leaf, when the swallow took off from the happy prince, ultimately at last the happy prince looked quite dull and grey. Now there was no more golden leaf on his body. And these leaves, one by one, the fine gold leaf, they brought to the poor and the children, and all of them became happy. They laughed and they relaxed, and they thought even that now they would have the bread for their needs. Then the snow came, and after the snow came the frost. The streets looked as if they were made of silver because of the frost. Everybody went about in furs, and the little boys wore scarlet caps and skated on the ice. The poor little swallow grew colder and colder, but he would not leave the prince. He loved him too well. He picked up crumbs outside the baker's doors when the baker was not looking, and tried to keep himself warm by flapping his wings. But at last he knew that he was going to die. He had just enough strength to fly up to the prince's shoulder once more. "Goodbye, dear prince," he murmured. It seemed the whole city was covered with silver plates, silver color. Everybody in the city, they had to use fur, warm clothes, caps, etc. And on the other side, the poor little swallow grew colder and colder because he was unable to face that cold weather. And still he did not leave the prince. He loved him too well. He picked up the crumbs outside the baker's door when the baker was not looking there. He used that crumb to fill his stomach, and then he tried to keep himself warmer by flapping his wings. At last he realized that his end was near. Before going to die, he wanted to fly up to the prince's shoulder once more to say him goodbye. And he did so. He gathered all his courage and flew to the prince's shoulder and kissed him and told him that, "Will you let me kiss your hand?" he requested the prince. "I'm glad that you are going to Egypt at last, little swallow," said the prince. "You have stayed too long here, but you must kiss me on the lips because I love you." "It's not to Egypt that I'm going," said the swallow. "I'm going to the house of death. Death is the brother of sleep, is he not?" And he kissed the happy prince on the lips and fell down dead at his feet. "I'm very happy." When the prince listened the swallow wanted to kiss on his hand, he replied that he was very happy that swallow had decided to go to Egypt because with him for a long time, and because happy prince also loved the swallow too much, therefore he told him to kiss him on the lips because of the love to him. And after listening the prince, the swallow told him that it is not Egypt where he was going. He was going to the house of death, and he accepted that death is the brother of the sleep. By saying so, he kissed the happy prince on the lips and fell down dead at his feet. At that moment, a curious crack sounded inside the statue, as if something had broken. The fact is that the leaden heart had snapped right in two. It certainly was a dreadfully hard forced. Early the next morning, the mayor was walking in the square below in company with the town councillors. As they passed the column, he looked up at the statue. "Dear me, how shabby the happy prince looks," he said. "How shabby indeed," cried the town councillors, who always agreed with the mayor, and they went up to look at it. At the same moment, when the swallow was dead at the feet of the prince, at the same moment the leaden heart of the prince, was broken into two pieces, and it was a dreadfully hard forced. Next morning, when the mayor of the city was passing from that square with the group of the councillors, then he looked up at the statue. He found the statue was looking very shabby, and he said that the statue was very shabby, looking very shabby, and it was very shabby. The ruby has fallen out of his foot, his eyes are gone, and he is golden no longer, said the mayor. In fact, he is little better than a beggar. Little better than a beggar, said the town councillors. So when the mayor observed the happy prince statue, he declared that now there was nothing in that statue, neither the ruby, nor the spires, nor the gold plates. On the whole, the statue was looking a little better than the beggar, and that was also repeated by the town councillors. "And there is actually a dead bird at his feet," continued the mayor. "We must really issue a proclamation that birds be allowed to die here." And the town clerk made a note of the suggestion. So they pulled down the statue of the happy prince. "As he is no longer beautiful, he is no longer useful," said the art professor at the university. So when the mayor saw the dead bird at the feet of the statue, he told his people that there should be a proclamation, there should be an announcement that birds are not allowed to die here. And that suggestion was accepted and noted down by the town clerk. So when the statue was pulled down, because he was no more beautiful, he was no more useful, then the art professor of the university told that now it is of no use, it should be recycled now. So then they melted the statue in a furnace. "What a strange thing," said the overseer of the workmen at the foundry. Also lying. So when the overseer of the workmen at the factory, he saw that all the part of the statue had been molten down except the leaden heart. So he declared that the leaden heart also is of no use. It is not worth to melt, so it should be thrown. And then they throw it on a dust heap where already the dead swallow, that very dead swallow's body, was lying. So, dear student, on the other side, let us see what happened. "Bring me the two most precious things in the city," said God to one of his angels. And the angel brought him the leaden heart and the dead bird. "You have rightly chosen," said God, "for in my garden of paradise this little bird shall sing forevermore. In my city of gold the happy prince shall praise me." So on that same time, when God asked one of his angels to go to the earth and bring the most precious two things from there, the angel selected those two things, the dead body of swallow and the leaden heart of the happy prince. On his selection, God appreciated him a lot and told him that his selection was appropriate. And he promised to that angel that from that time, then onwards, the swallow would sing forever in the garden of paradise, and the happy prince would have a place in the city of gold of the God himself, and he shall praise the God by living there. So, dear student, this is the story of useless ones. So, here we have understood that happiness lie in the heart of the people, and when there is no life, people usually think us that is just a body, it is of no use. They Some selfish people do not remember the act done by the great people. On the other side, the great people do not lag behind doing the good deeds. They usually do. They always do, because good deeds always make ourselves happy. It is not necessary that by doing good deeds we can make others happy too, but at least we can make ourselves happy, contented, and satisfied with our life. So this is the moral of the story, that we should do the good deeds just for the sake of our happiness, without thinking that others are becoming happy or not. Thank you and have a nice day.